This is a video for total beginners. Some of you have just gotten your first drum machine, and the first drum patterns that you're creating are sounding a bit like this. If this is you, then today I want to start giving you a couple of concepts to start making more musical choices when it comes to programming drums. Let's get into the theory. Okay, the first advice I would give if you find yourself doing a nonsense is to stop and to clear everything. Because when you clear everything, what are you left with? Silence. The silence is the metaphorical blank canvas onto which we're going to paint intentionally what we intend to paint. So on my drum machine, I just hit clear on everything. Now this is deceptively simple advice because as a beginner you think, oh, I just want to get started. I just want to start doing things. But taking things back to silence, and whenever you do something, listening, that's going to be the core. But it's not so easy. It's not as easy as it sounds. What we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that everything that we add over top of silence is important, that we feel it's important, that we make it important. Then, in order to add something, we're going to add an element that marks the pulse. So in most Western music, whether it's Beethoven or Berghain techno, underneath your music there is a regular metronome pulse that's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It can be counting to 4, it can be counting to 3. Let's just continue on the assumption that it counts to 4. And it's regularly spaced. In a lot of dance music, the kick drum marks that. Notice how your head nods along with this. Establish this first, before you add anything. Over the top of your empty canvas, your silence, add a pulse. This way, we as the audience know when to move our heads. Even if you're gonna remove elements later, even when there's elements missing, we still feel the pulse. Your head still goes up and down, even when there's an element missing, or even when an element comes fast. We still feel the pulse. When you're looking at this drum machine, by the way, this is the kick drum and this is the hi-hat. We could replace the kick drum with the hi-hat. And again, we would now have a sense of where the pulse is. And here that pulse is again with a little bit of a clap, white noise type sound. You can give the impression that the pulse is going slow by only playing it once every 2 beats. Or super fast by doubling the amount of hits. But if you're trying to do dance music, it's a safe bet to keep coming back to 1 kick drum every pulse. All right? And in the same way that light and shadow can't exist without each other, the pulse, the downbeat, these downs, can't live without an up. So halfway between each down, we could say there's an up. Down, up, down, up. These only further establish and deepen our sense of where the pulse is. And this is the lifeblood of your music. If this is hard to feel in the music that you're making, strip away things. Strip them away until you are sure that you feel at least this metronome time. If this gets lost, you're either doing really advanced music or you're just getting yourself into a mess. The next step is add anything else. Super deceptively simple, right? Add anything else. What I'm going to suggest here is that anything that you add from this point on, if you add it, stop. Add something and then wait and feel how you dance to it and how it feels compared to the pulse. Imagine you've got something marking the pulse, like the kick drum, and just one little low tom hit, right? There's already enough there to dance to, and the musical interest will be carried by whatever playful ideas are going on in the music. Next, I would like you to think about that new element's relationship to the main pulse. Where does it lie in emphasis space? What the hell is emphasis space? Let me draw you a little diagram. Imagine a 3x3 grid like this. Each of these columns is a 16th note. So you might count it as 1 E and A. And so in this grid, I'm going to say the top row is high emphasis, medium emphasis, and low emphasis. And so what's usually happening in a beat like this is that there is high emphasis on the 1, because that's where your kick drum's falling. And there's a medium emphasis on the third 16th note, which is where the hi-hat sits usually. And this little emphasis pattern is often repeating itself again and again and again within your composition. So within one bar, it's repeating itself 4 times, for example. You can go pretty complicated with this, but what I'm trying to get you to think about is the concept of syncopation. Because where did we just program our beats? Well, we programmed it on the 1. It goes, that falls at the same time as a kick drum. This leads to an element that has no syncopation because it doesn't challenge the pulse at all. It emphasizes the pulse even further. And whilst that's great, and I was just telling you absolutely to emphasize the pulse, at some point you want to start putting into place elements that challenge the pulse somewhat. And it can be as simple as moving this one element over a 16th note. Then what we will have done is we'll have put our clap essentially here, creating syncopation. Syncopation is nothing more than adding a beat that pulls away from the main pulse. The clap is this blue box here. Here I've repeated this little cell, this little concept 4 times. That's obviously going to get exhausting, but there are tracks that do things like this. So maybe just repeat it every 2 kicks. Once we're starting to feel like there's a healthy balance between the pulse and the syncopation, we come back to these questions every time that we add an element. So for example, let's add another element, which is going to be, in this case, the top row, which is a low tom type sound. And whatever I program, I'm going to again be thinking about this diagram. Do I want to program something that emphasizes the 1, or the and, or the E, or the A? That's just how we count, right? 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. And if we emphasize the E and the A, we're going to lead to greater syncopation. And if we emphasize the 1 or the and, we're going to be emphasizing the pulse. And you're now becoming an architect or a chef who has to decide which ingredients you're going to be adding in which quantity. So let me program something in my low drums. If we zoom in on this section, we see that I've programmed here one on the upbeat and here one on the E. So 1 E and A, 1 E and A, 1 E and A. That's how we're counting, right? So here it's on the and here it's on the 1 E and A, on the E. And I've just repeated that idea twice. Because rhythmic patterns like this, they fit into each other like Lego blocks. We might call what we've just created a rhythmic cell or a musical motif. And the rhythmic ideas that we've just created here are now important to our composition. We should not endlessly layer things on top of each other that have nothing to do with each other. We should not confuse these rhythmical ideas with too many irrelevant elements. We should consider whether maybe the synthesizers in our track are going to mimic these same rhythmic patterns. Maybe they're going to emphasize the same syncopated beats or not. But we started from silence and we created a rhythmic cell, which is a musical motif, by combining the pulse and syncopations. Another phrase you might regularly hear is, do certain drums talk to each other? Interestingly, when you listen to multiple elements at the same time, they might create a groove between themselves that's more than just the sum of its parts. For example, if I mute everything except my kick and my low tom, together, they form a coherent musical idea. It's almost as if they're talking to each other. They go, so if I were to start programming a new element, I might think of something that speaks to the toms. So imagine something that completes this musical phrase. Imagine we've got just a pulse like this, and we add in one element in the lows. Yeah. And then we add one element in the highs. What I want to suggest to you is try to feel how these elements talk to each other. So it's boom, boom. They're completing a musical phrase together. And your attention can flow from one to the other quite linearly. The spotlight of your attention flows from A to B. And so when elements respect space for each other, when they say, okay, first you, then you, that's something that maybe we might call call and response. That's a word you might have heard. And it's just ensuring that everything has its own space. If you don't leave everything its own space, things might start fighting for space. And so you might have a very layered composition, and then the skill becomes to zoom out and to listen to the whole composition and still feel the pulse and the syncopation within that collectively. So recurring ideas that keep coming back are do less, leave space, and listen, feel, and dance. Remember when we just had the pulse and that one tom? And I was just doing some delay? Where would we take this? What next? Because obviously at some point this is going to get stale, right? I often have this metaphor where I think of it as like gears in a car, where this is like the slowest gear, let's say. And then I would add the upbeat. So something like and just by playing with the timbres, you can keep things interesting for such a long time. If you're also making a composition that has some synthesizers in it, you might need drums that do even less than this. So leave space, do less. Add in an element of human playfulness. That is always fun. And think in terms of energy gears. So we've got the kick marking the pulse, the hi-hats marking the upbeats. The hi-hat has different intensity levels. One thing that I might like to do is this hi-hat. I'll make a short loop out of it and play it every 16th notes. Really short. And then the one on the upbeats, make it longer. So I didn't add rhythmically many new ideas here. We're still just emphasizing the pulse and the syncopation. And every time you change the way that you mark these beats, you refresh the energy and the attention of the listener. Another common word you might hear is the backbeat. Every second kick drum is sort of traditionally a place where you might put a snare drum or a clap or a rim shot. And then, once people start to get very comfortable, you can build tension by taking away important elements, like the kick and the low tom, and find a moment to bring them back. Now you're doing storytelling. If you're doing less, you're leaving space for other musical elements. So yeah, the drum patterns that I was creating only carry half the story, so they don't need to be too interesting. Sometimes they're just a supportive element. And if you want your drums to be a foreground element, what you might do is maybe then create a voice in the mids that fulfills the role of a synthesizer. And one way that I like to do that is I like to make a polymeter in the mids. So that would look like me taking this mid-range element and setting its length to something that's not 16 steps. And you see how now it circles around the main rhythm? And you can even ratchet it, so you might be like, this element is now clearly the protagonist, right? So now if you wanted to make, if you wanted to put synths in there, they have to fight up against this. It's okay, but remember the idea of the blank canvas, right? Everything that you add to the blank canvas makes everything else look smaller. So if you have an empty canvas with just a splash of red, that's going to be impactful, right? But if you have an empty canvas and then you fill it with a bunch of half worked out ideas that are all in confused conflict with each other, the viewer doesn't know how to feel. They don't know what to conclude from that. So do less and be intentional and make sure that you feel every element that you add. And when in doubt, keep the same patterns, but vary the timbres or vary the intensity of the timbres. And if your musical ideas feel a bit confused, one of the tricks is to try and sing it, to clarify it with your mouth. So I'll be like, do I prefer it if it's like boom, boom, or do I prefer that it's like boom, 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 boom. These are two different ideas. But if I start to sing it and I start to embody it physically, and embodying it physically is the goal where you want to get to so that you can clarify those ideas further. If you want to go further down this rabbit hole, I would recommend that you look into the following terms. Just type them into Google or YouTube or whatever. Polymeters, turnarounds, and ABAC variations. This is hopefully going to set you onto the path of programming some musically very satisfying drums. If you like the way I teach, maybe go check out one of the long-form courses on the Underdog website. Say something nice in the comments to boost us with the algorithm. Like the video and do subscribe, pretty please. And until next time, stay producing, be good to each other, and take care. Bye-bye.